everyone, I'm Strat Tom, and this week I've been playing Royal Court, the new expansion for Crusader Kings 3. And today I thought I'd do a video telling you what I think of it. So, what are the new features of Royal Court? Well, the first one is the namesake of the expansion, and that is the brand new 3D Royal Court. One thing that I've always loved about Crusader Kings is the RPG elements of it. The idea of the fact that you are playing as a character rather than a nation. Like most Paradox games, CK3 is a little bit of a map painter, but Crusader Kings always had that element of character and story. And it was one of the things that I absolutely loved about it. The new 3D Royal Court really expands on this. Now, there is a place where you can see your characters in the flesh, in action, and you see them interact with the members of their court. This idea of the people who are in your court and your vassals, they're no longer just names on a menu. They're there, they're in front of you, you've got to deal with them. And I absolutely love this. I think it's fantastic. So, every 5 years you can have the option to hold court. When this happens, you'll see a line of petitioners line up in front of you and they will tell you their grievances. Some of them might be asking for money to fund a new project. Some might be complaining that a neighbouring group of knights went marauding through their territory and are asking you for compensation. Sometimes local mayors have spats with rival towns and you've got to try and get in the middle of this and sort out their problems. Or you just side with one of them. As with all things in Crusader Kings 3, your traits and temperaments will make you naturally lean towards one outcome more than the other. For instance, if your character is a aggressive, warlike man, then the best solution to a dispute between two rival mayors might be to give them both swords and tell them to fight it out. But dealing with problems is not the only thing that the Royal Court is there for. There is also now the aspect of court grandeur. As your empire grows, the grandeur of your court is expected to grow with it. The leader of a small kingdom is not expected to have the same court level as, say, the Byzantine emperor. But it is up to you, as you expand, to make the grandeur of your court legendary. You can do this by investing some of your money into new things like more servants, better food, better fashion, that sort of thing. Of course, one other way is the use of relics. Now, the use of relics is really quite cool, and I really do enjoy this bit. Over the years, characters can either find or win or forge new relics. This could be weapons, tapestry, armour, holy relics. These can then be displayed in your court. It really does give a visible, tangible sense of history after you've been playing for 300 years or so with multiple generations. It gives you that feeling of continuity. This is your family, this is your dynasty, and they are represented by these visible things that live at your court. However, the things that can be discussed and displayed at your court do lead us into the next big change in the Royal Court DLC, and that is the use of culture. Now, culture was always a thing in CK3, but it was a little simplistic. At least now that I've played Royal Court, I find it a little simplistic. The new culture system represents a little bit like the religion system works in CK3. All religions have different tenets and ideas that must be followed, and in the game you could form your own form of heresy and branch away from the established path of your set religion. Now you can do that with culture too. You can enhance your culture, change your culture, but if you don't like what your culture is, you can form a divergent culture. But what I think is one of the most interesting of all of them is the use of hybrid cultures. In the base game, you could conquer a foreign land and you could either adopt to your new subject's culture, or you could use some of the characters in your court to change the culture of the local populace over time. What is a far better and more dynamic thing that is now available to you in Royal Court is the hybrid cultures. For example, I recently had a game playing as Jorvik where I formed the Danelaw. Doing this playthrough in the past left me with the option of either making the locals be Norse in culture or adopting the Anglo-Saxon culture for myself. What I've done now is I have formed the brand new Anglo-Norse culture. In so doing, I got to choose the key tenets from both cultures that I wanted to keep and the ones I wanted to dismiss, and I merged them together to make Anglo-Norse. It still took time for Anglo-Norse to spread over all of my lands, and now I still have the pagan, warlike traditions of the Norse culture, but I also have a far more settled and administrative side to our culture that I took from my Saxon brethren. The fact that cultures are now a far more dynamic thing is really one of the things that I love about Royal Court, and it's one of those things that, looking back, I don't think I could do without anymore. Last key change is more of a minor one, but it is cool, and it is the return of the inventory system, which came with one of the expansions from Crusader Kings 2. I believe it was the Monks and Mystics one. The inventory system allows you to look at some of the relics that you've acquired, and you can then equip them yourself. And so you can choose what armor, what weapons your character has. But also, if they're a more learned character, they can have books that they have either written or acquired, and it helps them in certain ways. Like I said, it's not the biggest thing, but it is a nice, cool little touch, and I do enjoy it. Royal Court really took its time being released, and given the situation in the world over the last 2 years, that's perfectly understandable. But given that wait time, it really did have to deliver. And I think mostly it has. There are a few niggles that I have with it. I wish there were a little more variety in the types of issues that were brought to you whilst holding court. I've had a few hours playing Royal Court now, and I'm already starting to see some of them repeat. And the idea of upgrading or diverging cultures, it costs a lot of prestige. And so, whilst I really do love the more dynamic culture system, it can feel like it's a bit out of reach all the time. But those few minor things aside, I think Royal Court is great. I think if you haven't got it, I would recommend it. And if I'm going to give it a score, I would say an 8 out of 10. It's very good. It's better than a lot of the DLC that has been put out there in the past few years for other Paradox titles. That being said, I would love to hear your opinions on Royal Courts and some of the new stories and games that you're playing. Leave all those in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I've been Strat Tom, and I'll see you next time.